our group study, we attempted to determine the effect of wording bias on individuals when asked a question. We were primarily concerned with how wording bias would affect teenage drivers' opinions regarding car brands. Specifically, we were testing the use of wording bias when teen drivers were asked to choose between two luxury car brands, Audi and Mercedes Benz. Our goal was to first determine, in an unbiased manner, which brand is more popular amongst younger drivers, Audi or Mercedes. Then, we wanted to see if wording bias affected or changed the results of the preferred brand. Going into the sampling process, we hypothesized that when asked a non-biased question, more students would prefer Mercedes Benz over Audi, simply due to brand recognition. We then predicted that when asked a question that was biased towards Audi, more students would indeed say they preferred Audi over Mercedes Benz. We chose this topic because we were all genuinely interested to see which brand younger drivers our age preferred. Within our group, we have varying opinions regarding which brand is better, and we just wanted to see what other drivers our age thought.
If you were given $50,000 to buy a brand new car, would you rather purchase an Audi or a Mercedes Benz vehicle?
An Audi.
$50,000 to buy a brand new car, would you rather purchase an Audi or Mercedes Benz?
Audi.
You got this, right? If you were given $50,000 to buy a brand new car, would you rather purchase an Audi or a Mercedes Benz vehicle?
Audi.
If you were given $50,000 to buy a brand new car, would you rather purchase an Audi or a Mercedes Benz vehicle?
A Mercedes.
Considering the fact that Audi vehicles are more reliable, have higher safety ratings, higher rated interiors, and have better overall performance, speed, and fuel efficiencies, would you rather drive an Audi or Mercedes Benz?
Probably an Audi.
The Audi vehicles are more reliable, have higher safety ratings, have higher rated interiors, and have better overall performance, speed, and fuel efficiency. Would you rather drive an Audi or Mercedes Benz? Considering the fact that Audi vehicles are more reliable, have higher safety ratings, have higher rated interiors, and have better overall performance, speed, and fuel efficiency, would you rather drive an Audi or Mercedes Benz?
Mercedes.
Considering the fact that Audi vehicles are more reliable, have higher safety ratings, have higher rated interiors, and have better overall performance, speed, and fuel efficiency, would you rather drive an Audi or Mercedes Benz?
Absolutely 100% an Audi.
Our goal is to sample 60 subjects who would be representative of our intended population, teen drivers, and thus we interviewed seniors at St. John's during 2 lunch periods. In order to use proper randomization in our study, we numbered every senior lunch table in the commons, 1, 2, 3, and so on. We then used a random number generator to select one number or one lunch table. We then asked the first 15 students at this table the first unbiased question. If there were less than 15 students at a table, we would again use a random number generator to select a table until a total of 15 seniors were asked question number 1. After this, we would ask the next 15 students the biased question by following the same selection process as was used for the non-biased question, until we reached a total of 13 sampled seniors. This process was repeated in 5th and 6th period lunch in order to obtain 60 student responses. In order to avoid confounding variables and unwanted bias, we did not ask question number 1 in any biased manner in terms of facial expressions or tone of voice. We also used the same interviewer for each respective lunch, Ethan for 5th and Dave for 6th. Also, we did not mention any other car makes such as BMW, Lexus, Volvo, or Cadillac. In addition, did not purposely select students who drive an Audi or Mercedes-Benz vehicle. We randomly selected subjects ignorant of their driven vehicle.
In this data table, we can see our results from the sampling. As you can see, we interviewed a total of 60 students, with 30 being asked a non-biased question and 30 being asked a biased question, giving us a total sample size of 60 students. From this table, we can see that in the first row of data, that when asked a non-biased question, the number of students who preferred Audi and the number who preferred Mercedes-Benz were much closer to each other than when asked a biased question. When asked a non-biased question, 19 of 30 students preferred Audi to 11 of 30 preferring Mercedes-Benz. When asked a biased question, 26 students preferred Audi and only 4 still preferred Mercedes-Benz. Shown as percentages, the trends become more clear. 63% of students chose Audi and 37% chose Mercedes Benz when asked the non-biased question. When we implemented wording bias towards Audi, 87% of respondents selected Audi, whereas only 13% chose Mercedes Benz. When the data is organized into a graph, the numbers that we saw in the raw data table reveal very clear trends. If you look at the leftmost bars in the graph, you can see that the non-biased question revealed less separation between preferences than the biased question. The difference in height between the two rightmost bars is significantly greater than the leftmost bars, thus showing the predicted trend in responses. In this graph, the trend in answers by brand becomes clear depending on what question is asked. Looking at the Audi bars, we can see that the preferences were greater when students were asked a biased versus a non-biased question. For Mercedes-Benz, we can see that the number of students who preferred the brand was less when asked the biased question as opposed to the non-biased question.
From our results, we first learned that more teenage drivers at St. John's prefer Audi over Mercedes-Benz, even when asked a non-biased question. These results did not align with our hypothesis, as we initially predicted that when asked a non-biased question, more students would prefer Mercedes-Benz over Audi. We can infer that amongst the teen drivers, Audi is a more popular car brand. Our hypothesis concerning the effect of wording bias, however, was correct. There was a direct correlation between the implementation of word bias and the preference in brand amongst the surveyed drivers. From the data, we saw that the number of students who preferred Audi was significantly greater when the wording bias was used, and the number of students who preferred Mercedes-Benz was significantly less when the same wording bias was used. So from this, we can conclude that there is a direct correlation between the use of wording bias and the preference of luxury car brands amongst teen drivers. In our experiment, there were some areas where we feel an error was inflicted upon the sampling method. For example, in our survey, we did not interview any female drivers. Since we are only sampling St. John's, sampling may not be representative of all teenage drivers, as females may have different initial preferences when asked a non-biased question. Another source of error could be our relationship with the interviewed sample. We, the ones asking the questions, personally knew a vast majority of the people who were sampled, and this could have influenced the student's response.